Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to my channel. Today I want to talk to you about exclusively breastfeeding and how we did it for 15 months with a good success rate, I'd say. Let's just pretend this is not there, okay? I'll get to that later. I wanted to do this video right quick for you guys though. So forgiveness, this is not there. So I had decided early on in pregnancy that I wanted to breastfeed and exclusively breastfeed. It was part of why I wanted to stay at home with him once I had him and stuff. And so I was pretty set and determined to breastfeed and to get through over, troubles that may have arisen or whatever. So I looked up read about all the possible issues that may have happened. And our neighbor happens to be a lactation consultant, so worked out great. But there's a lot of things you have no idea about until you're doing it. So I had him immediately. Look, if your hospital doesn't have a golden hour or like a skin-to-skin contact immediately allowing you to breastfeed within that first hour, you need to say that that's something you want. I think most of them do that, but if you're unsure, make sure that that's something you definitely set up in your birth plan or vocalize that that's something that you want, because it's crucial. Breastfeeding right at that start is crucial. And make sure everybody else at the hospital knows that you don't want to do formula, that you want to breastfeed. So I immediately, he latched on. I didn't know what was supposed to be happening. You look at pictures and videos, you read a lot, you think, okay, I can try, but you have no idea. And this kid's like on you and you're like, what? Is this right? I don't know. And yeah, so he latched on. It hurt. It's gonna hurt the first 2 or 3, even maybe I'd even go to 4 or 5 weeks. It's gonna hurt. At some point it's gonna be a little uncomfortable. Right at first it's just like, whoa. I think the sensation is new and it feels uncomfortable, but then afterwards maybe you have I had a problem with I don't want to call them chapped nipples, but he was not latching right. And they were whew, I keep touching my boob, I'm sorry. They were pretty sore. And I had to use ointment and stuff, which I'll get to in a minute. But so make sure you, from the get-go, everybody knows that you want to exclusively breastfeed. And you need to make sure you tell your partner too that that's a goal that you want to do. And I made sure my husband knew I want to exclusively breastfeed. I don't want to give him a bottle. I want to try to do the best that I can to just nurse him. And so we stayed at the hospital 3 days, 2 nights. Came back. He woke up a lot. He was cluster feeding a lot in the evening. I'm talking about every 30 minutes I was having to put him on. So it's tough. It's going to be tough. Look, if you can get through the first couple months, you are solid. You're ready to roll. But it was tough the first couple months because it was constant. I felt like it was all I was doing was nursing, and it was all that I was doing. I know that sounds scary. There was in between time, of course, but and at night it wasn't terrible. At night it wasn't terrible. He'd wake up maybe every hour and a half, couple hours at the very beginning, and I'd nurse and he'd fall back asleep and I'd lay him back in his cradle. It wasn't terrible. His cradle was by the bed. That's going to be another important thing to remember. Have the idea that they're going to be in the same room as you. I know some moms that I've spoken to, they think that their child's going to sleep in the crib in their room while they're breastfeeding, but I feel like that you're setting yourself up for some troubles, I guess. I don't want to say failure because you might still be able to do it, but it's going to be difficult because it's easier when the baby's right next to you. You can hear them grunting and sucking on their little hand and stuff. And if they're all the way across the house, you're gonna have to get up, you're gonna have to run across the house, you're gonna have to grab the baby. It's so much more work than just leaning over, grabbing your baby, latching on, everybody's good, burp, laying back in the bed. Keep them close. Keep them close if you can. I'm not against or for co-sleeping. We did for a little bit, but in the long run, it became a bit of an issue. And I have a video about that. If you want to check it out, it kind of gave a little bit of trouble when we were ready to transition him to his own bed. So I have a video, check it out if you want to, about co-sleeping, but he definitely slept next to our bed, and that, I believe, was a big factor in successful breastfeeding, having him close. Read up on feeding cues as well. I talked about how he was, like, you know, sucked his little hand and stuff. You can tell when they want to nurse. They'll suck on everything, and sometimes they're like opening their little mouth, like reaching on to grab anything. You'll know, you'll learn your baby really well, and if you feel like right at first, like, oh man, I don't know, if all else fails, pop them on. If all else fails, just put them on the boob. And you know, your kid may take a pacifier, your baby may not. My sister is still breastfeeding, and she's at 16 months, no pacifier. It was really, really tough for her the first maybe even 4 or 5 months because she was a pacifier. Our son took a pacifier, and so at some points when he was older, not right at first, I would give him the pacifier and know that he would be sufficed with that. But sometimes it wasn't enough, and that's when I knew he just wanted to feed. But after the first few weeks, you'll start to realize their little schedule, and they'll start nursing on a decent schedule. Luckily, my son only nursed for like 20 minutes max, especially at the beginning. Towards the end, after like a year or so, 5 minutes in, out, baby, we're done. Like 5 minutes max. Another thing to consider is becoming comfortable with nursing any and everywhere, especially if you want to exclusively breastfeed. Another thing to think about is are you going to be able to either lose a little bit of your social life, or are you willing to bring your baby everywhere with you to nurse them? Because while it's beautiful and it's wonderful for your child, you either have to be okay with taking your baby wherever you go because you are their only supply for food, or you have to be okay with not going somewhere. And I kind of made a little mix of the two. I did take him a lot of places. I nursed him. I think he was not even, like 6 weeks old, and I brought him to a nursery to get some flowers and stuff, and I had to nurse him in the parking lot. And we lived 30 minutes from my OB and the pediatrician, so every time we'd have to go to town, I'd have to like stop somewhere, and he hated being in the car, and the only way he'd stop was nursing. So you're gonna have to figure out what works for you, but don't let that be a hindrance. Don't let that stop you from nursing them, because it's so short-lived. Think about it though, like if you're like, man, I really wish I could be able to do this and this and this, but I can't because I'm nursing, or I really don't want to bring my baby here, but I need to be able to feed them. It's so short-lived that it may be a tiny sacrifice, but it's worth it. It's worth it. It passes so fast, so fast. It may not seem like it in the moment, but reflect on this. I want you to think about me a year from now. Envision my face. It was short-lived, right? So make sure that you're aware of the sacrifices you may or may not have to make. Another thing to remember is that everybody is different. Somebody may be having a glorious time breastfeeding, but maybe you are an oversupplier like myself. My son was really gassy, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. Well, come to find out, I have an oversupply, and I ended up having to nurse him where he was like sitting in a chair, or like in these really weird you will nurse in really weird situations and like setups. I'd have to sit him up, or just like sometimes, one time, fun story. He was laying, I had him propped up on a pillow on our bed, and I just like leaned over and like stuck my boob in his mouth, because that was the only way he'd stop crying, because he was really gassy, and it was from the oversupply, and that's something we had to work around, because there's really not much you can do about that. But we did. I got through it. It was fine. I know tongue ties, there's like so many things that could possibly go wrong, but they're all something you can work through. Your body was designed to nurse your baby, and your baby was designed to nurse. Now, there may be circumstances where I understand it's going to be impossible for you, and I hate to hear that, and I'm sorry for you that if that is you. But if it's not, and it's just like a tiny struggle that you need to get through, or even if it's a big struggle that you need to get through, if this is something you've set your mind to, then you can do it, and do it for your baby. They're not able to, stand up and say, hey, I want a nurse. So you need to make that executive decision for the two of you, The last thing is, make sure you have good nursing bras. I'm talking like good ones. Invest in them. That is something to invest your money in. There's a lot of things not worth investing your money in, and I'll make a video on that. But nursing bras, definitely worth the money. Now, nursing shirts and things, no. Nursing bras, yes. Shirts like this, even, I mean, look, if you can pick your shirt up, you'll be fine. You don't need to buy special shirts with a flap. That's not necessary. But a bra that clips in and clips easily, necessary. Even like your nightgowns at night, if you sleep in a big t-shirt like me, that's not gonna work. You need something at the beginning. Now later on, this is not gonna apply. But at the beginning, when your milk comes in, you're gonna be oozing everywhere. Like you will be leaking everywhere. So if your baby's nursing at night on this side, oh it's so sweet, this side's gonna be dripping milk. And if you just have on a t-shirt and nothing to hold some pads on, you're gonna be in a bind. So make sure you have something with a built-in bra. Motherhood Maternity has some gowns and they have like a little built-in bra with a clip. They're really nice. Invest in something like that, even a tank top. Something where you can put a nursing pad in there, disposable if you're smart, with a sticky, so that, you know, when you're leaking, it's not getting everywhere, making more work for you to do. Because you will leak everywhere. Nobody told me that. You're gonna leak everywhere. It's gonna be like crazy. But another thing to remember, because I still see I have my hair tie on my wrist, I used to put my hair tie on the side that I nursed on last. You'll see all kinds of weird tricks about this all over if you're looking into it, but it is, you're gonna forget which side you nursed on because you've done it so many times. You're gonna forget, but I could always tell just feeling my boobs. One of them is bigger than the other one. I don't have big boobs. I don't know how it is if you have big boobs, but I'm working with like small B's over here, so I could always tell, but I would do this just in case I forgot or whatever. But I definitely think it's nothing you can't get through. If you're afraid, it's nothing to be afraid of. It is literally the most natural thing you can do, and it feels so good to be like nourishing your child. One more thing to note on while I'm thinking about, you know, this is what happened in my brain. I thought, oh, what I ate nourished my baby. If I ate dairy, it messed Eli up, our son. He even got eczema from it, just from my breast milk. So I had to cut dairy out, and it took me a little bit to figure that out. They tried to, at the pediatrician, they tried to make me put some creams on him, like all this kind of, like steroid creams, and I was like, no, I'm not comfortable with that. He's getting eczema from something. So I figured out it was when I'd eat dairy. So I cut that out, and now he's peachy. Everything was great. So be sure you know yourself, know your baby. Throughout the process, you're gonna start to realize what's normal for you and your baby, and advocate for yourselves, because putting a steroid cream on a baby is not something I was comfortable with. But of course, you have a lactation consultant at most pediatrician's office. Talk to them before you talk to the pediatrician. Now your pediatrician may be like well versed on like you know, lactation consulting. I don't know what you call it, but the lactation consultants can definitely hook you up. They know what they're talking about a lot more than my pediatrician did, and she was a godsend, that woman. I called her a lot. And my neighbor, ooh, I bought her a Christmas present because I'm like, girl, thank you. She was wonderful. Leave your comments if you have something to tell somebody about breastfeeding that you feel like they need to know and I left out. Put it below. But be sure you're positive, because it is a positive thing. And I know there's a lot of horror stories about breastfeeding, but I think it should be positive, and I don't think it should be so scary. And I just want to encourage others to do it, because it's really a wonderful experience. And I'm going to make a video on weaning if you're at that point in your life. Or you will be one day, so stay tuned. But I'll make a video on weaning. Like and subscribe. I'm really glad that you tuned in. Thank you for ignoring my laundry pile. And I'll see you next time.